In 1988, my husband's family missed out on the factory's welfare housing allocation. My in-laws called me a fool for the rest of their lives, and my son resented me too, refusing to call me mom ever again. It was because I broke the factory machinery, costing us our spot on the housing list. But after my husband died, while sorting through his belongings, I stumbled upon his diary. It turns out he felt sorry for his first love having no stable home. So he voluntarily gave his welfare housing allocation to her. Afraid that his parents and son would resent him and not wanting to disappoint them, he deliberately set me up to take the fall and pinned the blame on me. Having wasted my life on the wrong person, I was overcome with rage and bitterness, and died with a heart full of resentment. When I opened my eyes again, I was back at the time when the factory was allocating housing. I grabbed my husband by the collar and stormed into the boss's office to make a scene. Is it that idiot Ching Xia who cost the Shin family their welfare housing? She's nothing but a jinx, always dragging Shin Wenqian down. Tisk tsk, how does she even have the nerve to show her face back at the Shin family? She's got some thick skin. Harsh accusations flooded my ears. Remembering the truth, I opened my mouth indignantly, ready to argue back. I looked up and saw the mocking sneer on the face of a colleague from the textile mill who never got along with me. I froze on the spot. How are they so young, you fool? My son must have been cursed for 8 lifetimes to have married you. A basin of dishwater was flung at me, the stench of rotten vegetable scraps smearing across my face. It was my mother-in-law. But, didn't she die over a decade ago? Could it be? I've been reborn. I can't believe I've gone back to 1988. Right when the textile mill was handing out welfare housing to its employees for free, in my past life, just before the housing allocation, Shin Wenqian came to the workshop to bring me lunch, and we ate together. After he left, the machine under my care inexplicably broke down. That machine was brand new, a major investment for the factory. Rumor has it the repairs cost a small fortune. Not long after, Shin Wenqian told me dejectedly that director who had informed him that due to my negligence, we wouldn't be allocated the welfare housing this time. A big 3-bedroom apartment, gone, just because I broke the machine. I wanted to go and confront director who to get a straight answer, but Shin Wenqian absolutely refused to let me go, saying it would just make us a laughingstock for nothing. Later, when other families had all moved into their spacious new homes, my family and I were still crammed into our tiny rented place. From then on, my in-laws gave up completely, stopped working, and would frequently beat and curse me, calling me a fool for the rest of my life. My son also resented me for losing the house, blaming me for his inability to find a wife. He never gave me a kind look and even stopped calling me mom. Consumed by guilt and self-blame, I was too ashamed to argue back. I endured it all in silence, hunched over, head bowed, and never walked with my head held high again for the rest of my life. Relatives, friends, and even colleagues would use my foolish mistakes as cautionary tales to teach their children. Even when couples fought, my name would come up. You should be thanking your lucky stars I'm not a fool like Ching Xia, who lost the house. Hearing that, the man would apologize. You're right, no matter how foolish you might be, at least our family's house is secure. Living in such an oppressive environment, I grew increasingly silent. 40 years later, Shin Wenqian passed away. Through my grief, I began sorting through his belongings. When I came across his diary, I instinctively opened it. April 7, 1988, Sunny, Chu Shihua finally agreed to accept the welfare housing today. June 18, 1988, Rainy, successfully transferred the welfare housing to Chu Shihua. I hope she can live without fear from now on. I just couldn't bear to disappoint my parents or let my son resent me. So I had no choice but to scheme against Ching Xia, letting her take the blame. Well, I'll look after her from now on. I won't let her life be too difficult. Snap, the diary fell to the floor, and my tears followed right after. It turned out that Lin Chuxue, the new female worker at the textile mill, was Shin Wenqian's first love. Back then, her family demanded a bride price of 200 yuan, which he couldn't afford. He could only watch, heartbroken, as she married another man. In middle age, Lin Chuxue's husband died unexpectedly, leaving her and their daughter behind. Her in-laws blamed her for bringing misfortune to her husband and, since she hadn't borne a son, drove the mother and daughter out of the house. The moment Shin Wenqian got the news, he arranged for her to work as a temporary laborer at the steel mill. Later, he pulled strings and paid under the table to get her a permanent position. He was always worried about Lin Chuxue and her daughter living in a rental, so before the housing allocation, he deliberately came to have a meal with me and took the chance to sabotage the machine. He pinned the blame on me and voluntarily transferred the welfare housing to Lin Chuxue. I'm so filled with hatred. If he wanted to help Lin Chuxue, why did he have to sacrifice me? then what was the point of my whole life? I was so enraged and filled with resentment that it killed me. I never imagined I'd get a second chance. I grabbed Shin Wenqian's hand. Let's go find Director Hu. Just because one machine broke down, how can they take away my housing allocation? I won't accept this. Shin Wenqian's expression suddenly changed. He grabbed my arm and spoke with grave sincerity. Shush ya, calm down. The list is already posted. Making a scene won't change anything. If throwing a fit worked for everyone who was unhappy, the whole factory would descend into chaos. What's done is done. I don't blame you. His voice softened. We'll just try harder next time during the housing allocation. In my past life, it was this very mouth that kept saying I don't blame you and I don't resent you, yet when my in-laws were hurling abuse at me, he just sat there eating and drinking without a word, and when our son complained about me, he never once reprimanded him. Next time, separate rooms. No, there won't be a next time. In my past life, I kept hoping for the next housing allocation to make up for this mistake. But things didn't go as planned. The next allocation never came, and the textile factory went bankrupt just a few years later. After the factory closed, the site was bought by a wealthy businessman, with only the welfare housing remaining in the hands of the employees. We didn't have any company housing, so we had no choice but to leave the textile mill and rent a place ourselves. Our family's financial situation took another turn for the worse. My in-laws, my son, and even Shin Wenqian's attitude towards me became even more hostile. The machine was bought less than 3 months ago, it's still under warranty, and the seller is supposed to fix it for free, and now they want to seize my house. Is there no justice in this world? What's more, I could accept losing our house, but why on earth should it go to Lin Chuxue? She's been at the factory for less than 3 years, always dragging her kid along and slacking off, taking multiple days off every month. How can she accept that apartment without a guilty conscience? I looked at the bystanders watching the commotion and pointed at 2 of them who were particularly engrossed in the spectacle. If it had gone to someone like Brother Jing or Sister Yi, veteran employees like them, I wouldn't have made a fuss. In my past life, Xinigua and Yimei didn't get an apartment either. Instead of taking it up with those who did, they just kept coming to humiliate me. I don't believe for a second that, now they have an excuse, they won't make a scene. Xinigua stroked his chin and refused to play along. Exactly, let's go ask too. Come on, Qingxia, we'll go with you. If they got chewed out, they could easily pin the blame on Qingxia. But what if we actually managed to get our hands on an apartment? Xinigua and Yimei were clamoring to go find Director Hu. Smack, the slap came out of nowhere, leaving a burning sting on the cheek. I raised my hand to touch my nose, and it came away smeared with red. Shin Wenqian withdrew his hand and shouted with a lack of conviction, "What are you making a scene for? Haven't you embarrassed us enough? Losing the house wasn't enough. You won't be satisfied until you lose your job too." The rage I'd been bottling up exploded. I stormed into the kitchen, grabbed a cleaver, and swung it at Shin Wenqian. He dodged quickly, but the blade still nicked a small piece of flesh from his ear. Shin Wenqian pulled a tissue from his pocket to press against the wound, completely losing his cool as he shouted, "Qingxia, have you lost your mind?" Seeing her son injured, my mother-in-law snatched up a kitchen knife and charged at me. I raised my hand, knocking the kitchen knife to the ground with my machete, then continued advancing toward Shin Wenqian, blade in hand. My mother-in-law, who had been sitting on the ground ready to throw a tantrum, took one look at my stance and thought better of it. "Qingxia, that's your husband," she screamed at the top of her lungs, struggling to her feet as she tried to snatch the machete from my grasp. My movements became more fluid. The sharp blade pressed against Shin Wenqian's neck. With a little more pressure, a thin line of blood appeared. "Don't come any closer. I'll slit his throat. I swear, if I go down, you're all coming with me." He gave Shin Wenqian a kick. "Move. We're going to see Director Hu." The textile mill office. "Director Hu, the machine may be broken, but it's less than 3 months old and still under warranty. Is that really grounds to take away my housing allocation?" Director Hu frowned deeply, turning to Shin Wenqian. "What's going on here?" Shin Wenqian replied cautiously, "It's nothing, Director Hu. Qingxia is just throwing a bit of a tantrum. I'll take her back right now." Director Hu grunted an acknowledgement before beginning his reprimand. "Comrade Qingxia, your behavior today was completely out of line. It's only because of Wenqian's good nature that he's letting it slide." I quickly laid out the whole story and demanded the return of my welfare housing allocation. Director Hu pondered for a moment. "I'll look into this matter thoroughly. However, the housing allocation list has already been submitted and cannot be altered. If there truly has been some injustice and you've been wronged, you will be given priority in the next round of allocations." "Yes, yes, of course, thank you, Director Hu." Shin Wenqian nodded gratefully at the director, his face full of appreciation, before pulling me away. Well, I got my answer. Time to go home. I'm so embarrassed. I looked Director Who up and down as a thought flashed through my mind. No wonder. Is that so? If Director Who can't handle it, then I suppose I'll have to go ask the factory manager. Director Who's eyes turned icy in an instant. Shen Wenqian flew into a rage, pointing at me and unleashing a torrent of abuse. When will you ever stop? You're the one who messed up. Director Who was kind enough to explain it to you, and you have the nerve to push your luck. I seized his hand, slammed it onto the table, and raised the cleaver high. Clang. The blade didn't bite into flesh, only shaving off his fingernail. I raised the knife again. Shen Wenqian struggled and cursed. Xinagua and Yimei were also taken aback. Director Who slammed the table in anger. Qingxia, how can you be so unreasonable? Qingxia, that's enough. Director Who has already said your family will be prioritized for the next housing allocation. What more do you want? Yimei said with a sour tone, ending her remark with an ingratiating smile towards Director Who. Xinagua followed right behind, heaping praise on Director Who and telling me not to be so selfish. I pointed the knife at them and cursed. In my past life, when I didn't get an apartment, you all mocked me to my face. Then I turned on Director Who. If you're upright, you have nothing to fear. If you were fair and just, why are you so afraid of me going to see the factory director? Even if I don't find him today, I'll go tomorrow or the next day. I will get to the bottom of this and find out exactly what the criteria are for the housing allocation. Sister Xia, how could you slander Director Who like that? A gentle yet urgent voice drifted into the office. The next moment, Lin Chushua's beautiful face appeared before everyone. She was slightly out of breath, her eyes brimming with tears, looking at me with disapproval. Sis Xia, the housing allocation slot is in my hands now. If you want to make a scene, you should be making it with me. Why are you bothering Director Who? Don't you see you're putting him in a difficult position? Director Who's eyes flashed with approval, and he gave a satisfied nod. Oh, is that so? Then why don't you explain? You're either complaining of a stomachache, a headache, or some issue with your kid, always too unwell to work. What makes you think you deserve a welfare apartment? If I remember correctly, you also broke a machine last month, and the repairs cost over 100 yuan. My machine broke down, but it was still under warranty, so the repair was free. So why was my housing allocation revoked? And not just mine, but Shen Wenqian's too. Well, you got to take the spot. Lin Chuxue couldn't come up with an answer. She just shook her head at me, her eyes brimming with tears. She then made it clear she didn't want to put Director Who in a difficult position. If I insisted on making a scene, she could let me have the apartment. Director Who protested loudly. Qingxia, last month the evaluation hadn't even started. You broke the equipment during the evaluation period. How can that possibly be treated the same as Comrade Lin Chushua's situation? Lin Chushua forced a smile and said, it's alright, Director Who, let Sister Xia have the apartment. Director Who grasped her hand, showering her with praise. Comrade Lin Chushua, you truly understand what's right, not like. He shot me a glance and snorted in disdain. Shen Wenqian was so moved by Lin Chushua's actions that his eyes welled up. He turned and berated me. Look at your hysterical state. Can't you learn a bit of Chushua's kindness and consideration? The welfare housing list has been submitted. The apartment is Chushua's. We can't just give in because you're making a scene. How are we supposed to manage the factory staff if we do that? Can't you be reasonable? I was so angry it made my chest ache. Lin Chushua was willing to give the housing allocation back, and Director Who agreed, but he was the one who refused. What? Are you that protective of Lin Chushua? These 20 years I've spent married to him have been a complete waste. Since I don't have a place to live anyway, I'm going to confront the factory director. I'm a model employee every single year. How can it be right that I'm left out when housing is being allocated? You. Shen Wenqian's chest heaved with rage. Lin Chushua took his hand, and the two of them gazed into each other's eyes with deep affection. Smack. Director Who slammed his hand on the desk, shooing me away. Fine, the apartment is yours. Now get out. All of you, stop disturbing my work. Today was the housing allocation. I drew the end unit on the 3rd floor. It's a corner unit with perfect north-south exposure, fantastic natural light, and it even has an extra utility balcony, a truly top-notch apartment. I was walking home in high spirits when, even before I stepped inside, I heard my mother-in-law's booming voice. It's all thanks to Wenqian's skills. We weren't supposed to get a welfare apartment, but he's on good terms with Director Who. He just went into the office once, and the spot was ours. She stood with her hands on her hips. Ah, it's not that I, as his mother, have to brag about him, it's just that he's so reliable. When he went to see Director Who, he didn't bring any liquor or cigarettes, but the director values him so much, he took care of it without a second thought. The relatives in the living room were falling over themselves to flatter her, chiming in one after another. My mother-in-law was absolutely beaming with pride. When I walked in, she shot me a sidelong glance, acted as if I weren't even there, and went right back to addressing the relatives. Come on, let's move the stuff to the new house. I'll show you all the big place. The group cheerfully carried the furniture toward the new home. Oh, you think you can just move into the new apartment I fought for? In your dreams. 20 minutes later, the mother-in-law came storming back, furious. Chung-xia, that apartment was allocated to Wen-qian. What gives you the right to rent it out without permission? Shen Wenqian's face was equally dark as he said coldly, what are you trying to pull? If the apartment's rented out, where are we supposed to live? I shrugged. It's my own place, what's it to you? You can live wherever you like. Director who made a mistake with the list and gave the apartment to Lin Chuxue by accident. It's been returned to me now, and it's mine alone. Your name isn't on the housing allocation list. If you want an apartment, go ask director who yourself. Applying for housing required a written application. When I was filling mine out, Shen Wenqian was busy comforting Lin Chuxue and never came to sign it. My mother-in-law shoved me toward the door. You good for nothing, go get that apartment back. I'm not going. If you all want to go, then go ahead. 2 hours later, the two of them returned, their faces bruised and swollen. The old woman, looking half dead, leaned on Shen Wenqian, her voice hoarse from all the shouting. I smiled with satisfaction. The Su family were tenants I had handpicked. After all, I'm more than ready for a fight. I'm not the least bit afraid of Shen Wenqian or my mother-in-law making a scene. After I entered the room, I heard my mother-in-law clamoring to go find Director Hu and demand an explanation, but Shen Wenqian stopped her. Mom, I have a way to deal with Chung-xia. He leaned down and whispered something to the old woman. A sinister smile spread across the old woman's face as she glanced around the room. That's exactly what she deserves. The next day after work, the house was bustling. My mom was actually home. I had just walked in when she came over, showering me with questions about how I was. Alright, out with it. What's going on? My mother never visits without a reason. She gave an awkward laugh. Alright, I'll be blunt, she said. Go and kick the Su family out. How can we let strangers live in our new house? I kept a straight face. Why not? If anyone's going to be jinxed, it'll be me. Mother's face fell instantly, with such a fierce temper. You're ruining our family's reputation. How is your sister ever supposed to remarry? Hearing that, the last shred of hope in my heart vanished into thin air. Sister, Chung-ro will always be the most important. Memories from my past life flooded my mind. Back then, I truly believed I had lost the welfare housing allocation because I broke the factory machine. At my in-laws' house, I was filled with self-blame and guilt, rushing to do every chore and not daring to rest for a moment. Yet even so, my mother-in-law still couldn't stand the sight of me. On New Year's Eve, she deliberately picked a fight, threw a basin of cold water on me, and drove me out of the house. It was the dead of winter, a blizzard was raging outside, and I was soaked to the skin, shivering uncontrollably from the cold, hungry, and freezing. I trudged back to the village and knocked on my parents' door, but when my mother opened the door and saw it was me, she immediately shut it again. A married daughter mustn't return to her parents' home for the new year. It brings terrible luck. Are you here to curse us on purpose? Yet I clearly remembered when Chung-ro had a fight with her husband. My mother had gone out of her way to bring her home for the holiday. Snowflakes drifted down as I dragged my frozen body back into the city, spending the entire night shivering outside the door. That night left me with a lifelong affliction. Whenever the wind blows or the rain falls, my bones ache as if pierced by needles. Alright now, I know you're the most obedient. Mother feigned a gentle tone. She's your only sister. Do you really want to ruin her chances of a good marriage? I looked her straight in the eye. Wait, did mother-in-law promise to find Chung-ro a match from the city? Why are you looking at me like that? Everything I do is for you girls. She began to recount all she had done for me over the years. That's impossible. Whatever deal you've made has nothing to do with me. My mom shot up from her seat. You're talking back to me now. And with that, she was about to hit me. Hitting me had become a habit for her. When I was a child, before I could earn money, she was even harsher with her beatings. Only when I grew up and gave her money would she say a few kind words about me. But Chung-ro is different. She can't bear to see her suffer the slightest grievance. It's as if I'm a max-level character she's given up on, while Chung-ro is the new account she's meticulously nurturing. Talking back. What do you know? You know nothing. I screamed back hysterically. We're both your daughters, so why are you so hard on me? Do I have to put up with everything? Do I have to give in to everything? I don't want to put up with it anymore, and I won't give in. I exposed the affair between Shen Wenqian and Lin Chuxue. Mom's expression froze for a moment before she started lecturing me. What man doesn't stray, but who goes around shouting about it like you? Don't air your dirty laundry in public. Don't you understand that simple principle? All those years of education were wasted on you. Besides, Wenqian loves you so much. At most, he's just been spending a bit more time with Lin Chuxue. How could you accuse him of fooling around? Have you no conscience? I glanced toward the outside of the house. Shen Wenqian was standing very close to my sister, Chung Ro. I couldn't tell what they were talking about, but they were laughing uproariously. I told you, getting the house back is out of the question. Whatever you've agreed on, leave me out of it. My mom was so angry she gave my waist a hard pinch. I lifted my shirt to look, and there was a big bruise. After the meal, I came back from the bathhouse. In the room, Chung Ro was wandering around my room with a cloth bag, lipstick, vanishing cream, a wooden comb. She'd pick things up, glance at them, and then stuff them into her bag. Is it even yours? You just take it. Are you so used to being a thief? I snatched Chung Ro's cloth bag. I dumped everything out onto the bed and flung the bag heavily onto the floor. Chung Xia, that's right. She's never once called me sister. Even after all these years of taking advantage of me, she still refuses to call me sister. I rubbed my ear. I can hear you just fine, no need to shout. Chung Ro ran out crying, and moments later, my mom came in. The moment she walked in, she jabbed her finger against my forehead and scolded, "You've really got some nerve, haven't you? Now that you think you're all grown up, you dare to bully your own sister. Why don't you try picking on someone outside the family? You're her older sister. Is it really so wrong for her to take a few of your things? If I'd known you'd turn out like this, I should have just drowned you in the river back then." I brushed her finger away and sneered, "Didn't you try?" When Chung Ro was in middle school, she dated a local troublemaker. The village gossips saw them and spread vicious rumors. She dragged me straight to the river, held my head under the water, and screamed at me the whole time, saying she sent me to school. And this is how I repay her, by dating a hoodlum. She was absolutely furious and showed no mercy. I genuinely thought I was going to drown right then and there. It wasn't until some villagers ran over and stopped her that she finally let go. She slapped me across the face several times before storming off home. I got the full story from the villagers and thought she had mistaken me for someone else. I ran home in long strides, wanting to explain that it wasn't me hanging out with those troublemakers, only to find her holding Chung Ro. "Those good-for-nothings have no future. Stay away from them from now on. Since the villagers saw me hit Chung Xia this time, they'll surely think she's the one with loose morals. Your reputation is still intact. I'll find you a good man later." My question caught my mother off guard. She was stunned for a moment, then burst into tears. "So, was I wrong for raising you? If I hadn't stopped you from hanging around with that good-for-nothing back then, would you have ever married into the city and found a man as good as Wenqian?" Chung Ro muttered under her breath. "See, you're not my real mother. You can never truly raise a child that isn't your own." I whirled around, my eyes wide with shock. "What did you say?" Chung Ro's face went deathly pale as she shook her head in a panic. I clenched my fists, my nails digging into my palms. But I ignored the pain and said through gritted teeth, "You said it yourself. I knew it. I'm not your real child. You can never truly raise a stranger as your own." Mom grabbed my hand anxiously. "Don't listen to your sister's nonsense. She hasn't been right in the head lately. Look how much you two look alike. How could you possibly not be my daughter? If you weren't my daughter, why on earth would I raise you? It's not like we have money to burn around here." She stated it with absolute conviction, but to me, it all reeked of guilt. Normally, if I questioned anything, she wouldn't bother explaining this much. She'd just hit me or yell at me. So that's how it is. I'm not even her biological daughter. All these years, I've been tormenting myself, wondering why she only liked Chung Ro and never me. Today, I finally got my answer. I let out a long sigh, hugged her, and ran my hand through her hair. "See, I told you, there's no way I'm not your real daughter." Mom's tense expression softened, and she laughed. Exactly. I plucked out a couple of hairs and sighed, pushing her away in frustration. "So, Mom, why are you sacrificing my well-being for my sister's sake? Did your mother-in-law promise to find your sister a proper city job?" Chung Ro's husband drank himself to death 2 years ago. As soon as he was gone, Guan Lanji went and brought Chung Ro back home. For the past 2 years, they'd been looking for a new husband for her together. She couldn't bear the thought of Chung Ro having a hard life, so her standards were sky high. The man had to be a non-smoker, a teetotaler, hold a stable job in the city, take on all the household chores, and hand over his entire paycheck for Chung Ro to manage. Demands like that. Forget that Chung Ro was a divorcee looking to remarry. Even a young woman getting married for the first time wouldn't dare set the bar that high. The outcome was predictable. Nobody was willing to give her the time of day. Guanlanji snapped her head up to look at me. How did you know? Alright then, tell me why you're so biased. Don't you dare say it's just because I'm the older one and she's the younger. I can understand having a favorite. Fingers aren't all the same length, after all. But this level of favoritism is absolutely not normal. You're doing well for yourself now. But Ruru is struggling. You're both my daughters. It breaks my heart to see either of you suffer. Is that so wrong? If that's how you feel, then I'll just leave. Guanlanji took Chunro by the hand and headed for the door. Just the same old trick again. In the past, if she did this, I would definitely have tried to persuade her to come back. Not a chance now. Guanlanji walked away, looking back every few steps. I never called out to stop her. Once she had stepped through the wooden door, I walked forward and, under her gaze of delighted surprise, coldly slid the bolt home. It's getting late, take care on your way, I won't see you out. The next day, I took my own hair and a strand of Guanlanji's hair I'd pulled out during our embrace the night before, and rushed straight to the hospital for a paternity test. After leaving the hospital, I went to a consulting firm and hired a private investigator to dig into Guanlanji's past. 7 days later, the hospital's paternity test results came back. My hand rested on the appraisal report, trembling uncontrollably. I tried several times, but couldn't bring myself to open the report. Taking another deep breath, I finally opened the appraisal report. The report was lengthy, and the dense text at the beginning was a blur to me. My eyes locked onto the line of the conclusion. The test confirms that Qingxia and Guanlanji are not biologically related. Tears welled up uncontrollably, blurring the words on the paternity report. Years of injustice finally made sense. A shaky, hysterical laugh escaped my lips, growing louder and louder. Great, just great. I don't have to beg for Guanlanji's motherly love anymore. The private investigator was efficient. A month later, he handed me a file folder. 38 years ago, Guanlanji and her cousin Tangyi gave birth in the same hospital. There's nothing wrong with this, but back then, Guanlanji had paid a small fortune at the clinic to check the fetus's gender. And it was a boy. She had proudly boasted about this news to many people, yet when the child was born, it was a girl. The intricacies of this situation go without saying. It was simply that Guanlanji, seeing Tangyi's favorable circumstances and unwilling to let her own son suffer, swapped her child with Tangyi's, sending her son to live a life of comfort in the Tang household. And I am Tangyi's child. The information provided by Know-It-All is quite comprehensive. It even included Tangyi's current address. I took leave from the factory to go look for my family, but when I got home, I found all my money was gone. I rushed to the bank with my passbook, only to find that all the money inside had been withdrawn. The only people who know the bankbook password are me and Shen Wenqian. I rushed back to the factory to look for him, but Shen Wenqian wasn't there. I asked some co-workers and found out that Lin Chushiwei had fainted at the factory yesterday and was hospitalized, but there's no money to pay the medical bills. It was Shen Wenqian who went to pay it. He even stayed behind at the hospital to take care of her. I was absolutely fuming. After being reborn, I was so busy fighting for the house and the paternity test that I completely forgot to change my bankbook password. After finding out which room Lin Chushiwei was in, I headed straight for the hospital. The hospital gown is so rough, it's chafed my skin red. Thank you, Wenqian, for buying me such comfortable pajamas. Lin Chushiwei sat on the bed in a set of pink and white silk pajamas, gazing affectionately at Shen Wenqian. Shen Wenqian sat on a stool, feeding her spoonfuls of chicken soup with a gentle expression. What's the big deal? You just focus on resting and getting better. That's what really matters. Don't you worry. When Qingxia gets back, I'll make sure she gives the apartment back to you. That rental place of yours is so cramped and dark. How are you supposed to recover there? Shen Wenqian's voice grew thick with emotion as he spoke, his heart aching more with every word. Qingxia used to be so sensible. Ever since my mom threw that basin of water on her that day, it's like she's deliberately trying to spite us. Lately, she's been completely overstepping the line. Bang. I couldn't take it anymore. I stormed into the hospital room and kicked over the small table. Chicken soup and rice went flying everywhere. Some of it even splashed onto Lin Chushiwei. She stumbled backward, crying out in pain as she rolled up her pant leg, revealing a large, red burn on her calf. Shen Wenqian, forgetting all about picking a fight with me, rushed over to examine Lin Chushiwei's leg. Once Lin Chushiwei had recovered enough to wipe away her tears with a pitiful look, Shen Wenqian finally turned a dark glare toward me and raised his hand. I grabbed a nearby table. Care to guess which of us is going to get hurt worse, me, or the two of you? Shen Wenqian reluctantly lowered his hand, seething with frustration. What's wrong with you now? I reached out my hand. Where's the money from my passbook? Shen Wenxian averted his gaze. What money? I don't know anything about it. He refused to admit it. I pointed the stool at Lin Chuxue, her story. The other workers already told me everything. What are you trying to pull here? Shen Wenxian shut his eyes, steeled his heart, and said through gritted teeth, the money's all gone. There was a little over 3,000 yuan in the passbook, every last penny I'd scrimped and saved over the years. Lin Chuxue suddenly fainted. After being taken to the hospital for examination, she was diagnosed with acute appendicitis, complicated by ovarian cyst torsion. The two conditions required an open surgery and a laparoscopic surgery, respectively. The two surgeries ended up costing about 2,000 yuan in total. After the surgery, Lin Chuxue complained that the hospital gown was too rough and started fussing for some good food. Shen Wenxian bought her 2 sets of high-end silk pajamas for 400 yuan. He then went to a state-run restaurant and had the chef specially prepare a nourishing chicken soup and plain congee suitable for her, which cost 100 yuan. On his way back, worried that Lin Chuxue wouldn't get enough nutrition after her surgery and would struggle to recover, he went to the supply and marketing cooperative to buy her nourishing supplements like bird's nest, donkey hide gelatin, and milk powder, and just like that, the money in the passbook was completely gone. Hearing that all the money was gone, a sharp pain gripped my chest, my vision went black, and I nearly collapsed. My money. All the money I'd worked so hard to save for all these years, it's all gone. Shen Wenxian rushed over to steady me. Don't scare me like that, money can always be earned back. I looked up at his face and, mustering all my strength, slapped him hard across the cheek. Easy for him to say, then how come he hasn't saved a single penny all these years? Why did he only have the nerve to steal my passbook, and not his mother's, covering his face? Shen Wenxian saw a crowd of onlookers gathered outside the hospital room. He kicked the door shut with a bang. Qingxia, I'm your husband. When we're out in public, can't you at least save some face for me? You're being completely unreasonable. I want a divorce. I can't live with you anymore. After his outburst, Shen Wenxian crossed his arms, looking at me with smug confidence. In this day and age, divorce was rare, especially for a woman. The gossip was vicious. Just stepping outside meant facing whispers and scornful looks. He was betting I didn't have the nerve to leave him. I want a divorce. Whoever backs out is a coward, then pay me back my money before we split. Shen Wenxian's smug expression visibly froze, and he said hesitantly, did you even hear what I just said? Divorce. I can't stand being with you either. Marrying you was the biggest mistake of my life. Shen Wenxian flew into a rage, grabbing me by the throat. Are you seeing another man? How dare you ask me for a divorce? He punched me in the stomach. You're in such a hurry to leave me. Are you carrying his bastard child? Lin Chuxue spoke up timidly from the side. Last Thursday, I think I saw Sister Shashia having dinner with a strange man at the state-run restaurant. They seemed to be having a wonderful time. Shen Wenxian's grip tightened around my throat. I was starting to black out. I channeled all my strength into my foot and delivered a vicious kick straight to his groin. Shen Wenxian let out a piercing shriek, curling up on the ground, unable to stand. I grabbed a stool and smashed it down on him. That's for choking me. And that's for slandering me. Shen Wenxian was left battered and bleeding from the blow. Lin Chuxue screamed and tried to run out. I grabbed her by the collar of her nightgown, yanked her back, and slapped her face repeatedly, left and right, accusing me of fooling around. How about I report the two of you first? They're cracking down hard on improper relations between men and women. If you're not married and you're sleeping together, you're just asking for a bullet. Shen Wenxian's face turned pale, then green, then purple. He looked absolutely terrible. Qingxia, don't just throw around accusations. Slander me if you must, but why drag Chuxue into this? Do you have any idea how serious this is? Me, slander her. If you two weren't up to something. Why would you steal my bank book to pay for her surgery? I'll pay you back later. Why do you keep bringing it up? That money was just sitting in the bank doing nothing. What's the big deal if I lent it to Chuxue? I want it back now. No money. Shen Wenxian picked up Lin Chuxue and left. Ha, if he won't give it, I'll just go get it myself. I returned to my in-laws' house with 4 tall, imposing men. I directed them to move all the valuable furniture from the house to the second-hand market. The TV, refrigerator, bicycle, sewing machine, radio, newly built wardrobe and bed were all laid out in a row, ready to be sold for the right price. They were all good items, fetching decent prices even second-hand. In total, we made over 3,000 yuan, nearly 200 more than what we had in savings. Some of the furniture was even bought by families from our own alleyway. Seeing them carry the furniture back, the mother-in-law went over to ask about the price. What spendthrift is selling things so cheap? If I'd known, I would have waited to buy now. It's the exact same style as what I have at home, but so much cheaper. What a huge loss. It wasn't until she entered her own home and saw it completely emptied that she let out a series of shrieks. Thieves, all my things have been stolen. A kind neighbor pointed to my room and told her that I was the one who had taken all the furniture away and sold it. My mother-in-law burst into the room, ready to hit me. I grabbed her hand. Shen Wenqian told me to sell it. I gave him all the money. I'm just a woman. How could I possibly have the nerve to sell the family's things on my own? That's right. He's at the hospital. You'd better hurry, or he'll spend every last penny on Lin Chushui and leave nothing for you. My mother-in-law snatched up a rolling pin and sprinted toward the hospital. I was about to head back inside to keep packing when someone grabbed me by the arm. Mom, have you lost your mind? You sold all our furniture for next to nothing. You're seriously messed up. No wonder Grandma and Dad have never liked you. Oh, it was my son, Shen Yan, home from the provincial capital for his high school senior year break. I'm thrilled, I said, brushing his hand away with a hollow smile. What I decide is none of your business, and I don't need their approval. In my past life, after I lost that house, he refused to call me mom ever again. Instead, he warmly called Lin Chushui Auntie Lin, acting as close as mother and son with her, while he had me raise his child. Later, after I'd raised the child, I never heard a single word of thanks. In that past life, my entire existence was spent yearning for my family's love, but Shen Yan's blood carries the Shen family's inferior genes. I never received any care, only endless oppression and resentment. I won't have this son anymore. As for his future, whoever wants to worry about it can go ahead. I'm done with it. I'm going to find my real family. With money and documents in hand, I boarded the green train bound for Haishur. 7 days later, I met my biological mother. She wore a white dress under a fitted khaki trench coat. She was intelligent, gentle, elegant in her manner, and very beautiful. But the moment I said I was her biological daughter, she suddenly sneered, her eyes sharp as she looked me up and down. Who sent you? What's your game? I produced the paternity test results and a photo of Guan Longji. 38 years ago, Guan Longji switched her son with me. If you don't believe I'm your biological daughter, we can go to the hospital for a DNA test. Seeing the photo of Guan Longji, she froze for a long moment, then suddenly stood up and embraced me. I'm so sorry, I lost you. Scalding tears fell onto the nape of my neck. So, 20 years ago, Mom had already discovered the truth. And she drove Guan Longji's son out of the house. She had placed numerous newspaper ads searching for Guan Longji and me, posted many missing person notices, and even traveled to many cities herself to look for us. But because Guan Lan had added the character Ji to her name, she never received even a shred of useful information. Over the years, her career flourished. Many knew she was searching for her cousin and daughter, and people would show up at her door every so often, claiming to be long-lost relatives. Her initial excitement gradually faded into numbness, which eventually spiraled into a complete breakdown. In recent years, she was even diagnosed with bipolar disorder. During her manic episodes, the thought that she was the one who had lost her daughter would overwhelm her with agony, leading her to self-harm on multiple occasions. In her depression, she would involuntarily imagine her daughter suffering terribly out in the world, dying after enduring all sorts of hardships, and she wanted to die alongside her. When she first saw me, her heart skipped a beat, because my eyes were the spitting image of my father's, and I also inherited his fair, cool-toned complexion, but she was afraid I might have had plastic surgery. It wasn't until she saw the photo of Guan Longji that she was finally convinced I was her biological daughter. Mom took me back to the villa. To my surprise, there was a room inside that had been prepared for me all along. It was filled with dresses Mom had personally designed for me, along with all the latest fashionable clothes from the market. Mom has been waiting for you to come home. After learning about all the things Shen Wenqian did to me, Mom wishes she could grind his bones to dust. Shashia, Shen Wenqian isn't good enough for you. Come on, let's go home. I'll go with you to divorce him. I heard I'm not Guan Longji's daughter and that I have a wealthy mother. I didn't even have to go looking for him. Shen Wenqian showed up on his own. In the hotel suite, Shen Wenqian put on an ingratiating smile. Mother-in-law, I prepared Xiaxia's favorite dishes at home. Shall we head back and talk over dinner? Then he turned to scold me. And you, Xiaxia, you should have given me a heads up that it was mother-in-law's first visit. I couldn't be bothered to watch his little performance, so I just asked for a divorce. Shen Wenqian's smile froze on his face. Xiaxia, I know you're upset about Chu Xue. Don't worry, I can cut all ties with her. Just give her $1 million, so she can live comfortably for the rest of her life, and I promise I'll never speak to her again. I couldn't help but scoff. $1 million, is she Are you even worth that? Shen Wenqian was forcibly dragged out by my mother's bodyguards, with the help of my mother's lawyer. Shen Wenqian and I finalized our divorce 2 weeks later. Shen Yan begged me to take him away, calling out for his mother and grandmother over and over. I refused. Wait, did I just get reborn? On the very day we left, Shen Wenqian and Lin Chuxue were both fired from the textile mill due to personal conduct issues. The two of them got married as they wished. The wedding was a very shabby affair. Her married life was no better. Lin Chuxue was used to having everything handed to her on a silver platter and had no idea how to do housework. When she tried to find work, her tarnished record meant no legitimate employer would hire her, leaving only backbreaking labor. But she couldn't stomach that kind of hardship, so she just stayed holed up at home, doing nothing. After Shen Wenqian was fired, his mother couldn't accept that her accomplished son had come to this, and she suffered a stroke. Shen Yan's grades plummeted. He failed to get into university and, too ashamed, refused to look for a job. Shen Wenqian was the sole breadwinner for 3 people. After work, he had to cook for them and then tend to his paralyzed mother's most basic needs. Tormented and at his breaking point, he screamed for Lin Chuxue to start learning how to handle the household chores. Lin Chuxue refused. It's not like this is new for me. I've never been any good at housework. In a fit of rage, Shen Wenqian hit her, bitter and resentful. Lin Chuxue took advantage of Shen Wenqian being at work to get involved with another man. She moved out and refused to see him. Shen Wenqian was absolutely furious. In the dead of night, he broke into the house armed with a knife and murdered Lin Chuxue. When apprehended, he kept muttering about how he regretted fighting with me and getting a divorce. But really, who cares? Story 2. After being sent to the countryside, I married a poor local boy named Darian Gu. I even sold my blood to raise travel money for him to start his business, which eventually made him a tycoon. Meanwhile, I struggled to raise our 2 children alone in the village, but on his deathbed, he divided his fortune into 3 parts, leaving me nothing but a yellowed notice permitting my return to the city. I've let you live in comfort all these years. Consider it repayment for your kindness back then. I could have returned to the city back then. It was him. Conspiring with the brigade leader, who swapped my name with Qingmei's, condemning me to a lifetime in the countryside. I broke down sobbing, only to be scorned by my own children for making a scene. I really don't understand how Dad ever fell for someone like you, throwing tantrums and making a spectacle. You have none of Auntie Zhou's grace and gentleness. Exactly, if you weren't our biological mother, I would have asked Auntie Zhou to be my mom a long time ago. I was so angry I had a heart attack and died. When I opened my eyes, I was back in the year when the educated youth were returning to the cities in droves. The list for Dasui village hadn't been announced yet, so there was still a chance. Freya, please don't go. Okay, just stay here with me, please. The man's face, magnified, kept moving closer to mine, and his voice sounded familiar. I instinctively shoved him away and hastily took several steps back, scanning my surroundings. It was the familiar grove. I could hear the sounds of villagers working outside, and standing before me was a man who looked decades younger. Darian Gu, didn't expect you to be so strong. Ouch, careful, don't draw anyone's attention. Darian Gu was only caught off guard when I pushed him. Now he's just grinning, not angry in the slightest. Without a second thought, I kicked out, and it landed right where I intended. As a howl of pain rang out, I dashed out of the grove and ran all the way back to the educated youth settlement. Following my memory, looking at the familiar place, I burst into loud laughter and then pinched myself hard. I had truly been reborn back to this year. Just before we were to return to the city, Darian Gu hadn't changed his name yet, and anything was still possible. Perhaps I hadn't run that fast in a long time, as I was completely worn out and had to rest for a while on a wooden bench. The other educated youths trickled back in, but the looks they gave me were full of strangeness. Looking at those young, familiar faces, I was overwhelmed with emotion. After the return to the cities, we all went our separate ways. Some, like me, were stuck in the countryside for life, while others made it back to secure government jobs. We rarely got together after that. Freya, what's going on between you and Darian Gu? Zhou Qingyu asked with concern in her voice, her clear, limpid eyes looking me over. I looked expressionlessly at this woman, cherished by Darian Gu and his children. She had a delicate, pretty charm, and there was a fragile beauty in her every smile and frown. She was the most striking presence among our group of educated youth sent to the countryside. Consequently, countless men in the village adored her, but Zhou Qingyu guarded her reputation closely, never getting particularly close to anyone, except for Darian Gu. Their families were neighbors when they were very young, but they gradually lost touch after the Zhou family found a way to move to the city. Even in my past life, I had always believed they were just very good friends. Looking back, the signs were probably there all along. If you're so concerned, why don't you just go ask him yourself? I didn't want to waste any more breath arguing with her. I stretched my limbs and took off running towards the team leader's house. Zhou Qingyu was still trying to explain something from behind me, but her words were already fading, and I had no desire to hear them anyway. But when I rushed to the main gate, I saw Darien Jiyu sitting inside, chatting with the captain and wearing a slight smile. "I'll leave this in your hands then, Uncle Qin." "Wait." I barged right in and positioned myself between them. Darien Jiyu's smile vanished. The recent pain had left his face ashen. Yet he still struggled to contain his fury. "Freya. What on earth are you trying to do? We had an agreement. I came to see the village chief to discuss our marriage. In the countryside, things aren't so formal. Holding a banquet is essentially considered getting married. Usually, you just need to notify the village chief." "Uncle Qin, Freya hasn't been well lately, and she's been acting a bit erratic. I'm taking her home. My apologies." After saying that, Darien Jiyu tried to pull me away. I mustered all my strength and wrenched my arm free, sending him stumbling back a few steps before he collapsed into a chair, his face a picture of utter disbelief. The team leader never really liked me. He always thought I was the type of girl who couldn't handle hardship and only knew how to rely on a man. In reality, I was the one doing most of the farm work, while Darien Jiyu usually used the excuse of being with me to secretly meet Zhou Qingyu. I only learned this later in my past life, from other people's accounts. I can't worry about all that. If we wait any longer, it'll be too late. Brigade leader, I don't want to give up my chance to return to the city. What I didn't expect was that the brigade leader would actually deny the existence of the return to city list. I distinctly remember I'm right. The commune had already issued it by this time. "Comrade Freya Su, now that you've agreed to marry Darien, you can't just back out on a whim. As for whether your name is on the list, you'll be notified when the time comes." The squad leader sidestepped the main issue and subtly issued me a warning. After that, I didn't take in a single word. Quickly piecing together all the interpersonal connections, I realized I had overlooked a crucial piece of information spanning my past and present life. Zhou Qingyu's family moved to the city from Dashui village. They definitely have better connections than I do. Darien Jiyu came over to pat my shoulder, but I dodged it. "Freya, we're heading out now. Let's not disturb Uncle Qin here." "Move." I gave the brigade leader a long, hard look, realizing that even if I stayed here all day, he wouldn't hand over the return to city permit. After leaving the brigade leader's house, Darien Jiyu had been following right behind me. "Freya, what's really going on with you? You agreed to this before." I quickened my pace, determined to shake him off. I was desperate to avoid repeating the tragedy of my past life. But Darien Jiyu clung to me like a shadow, impossible to lose. I ran straight into Zhou Qingyu and the other educated youths. I stopped instinctively, my face hardening as I looked at them. "Darien, Freya, are you both alright?" In no time at all, the news that I refused to marry Darien Jiyu had spread throughout the entire Dashui village. With the list for returning to the city still pending, everyone had plenty of energy to gossip. It was no secret to anyone that I had been carrying a torch for Darien Jiyu before. I'd even give him half of every care package my family sent. Logically, having grown up in the countryside, Darien Jiyu should have a higher tolerance for hardship than I do. But as the only male heir in the Hua family, his older sisters all dote on him. He always got first dibs on any tasty treats. But country life is no match for the city's comforts. After a few years of me feeding him, Darien Jiyu filled out quite a bit. Unbeknownst to me, he was taking the food I'd saved up and giving it to Zhou Qingyu. Back in the city, both my parents held technical positions at the steel mill, while Zhou Qingyu's family were ordinary factory workers. We didn't interact much back then. It was only after we were sent down to the countryside that we gradually grew closer. I knew she and Darien Jiyu were childhood friends, but I thought it was just a platonic bond. I never imagined there was another layer to their relationship. "It's alright, Freya, let's talk." Darien Jiyu rushed over, grabbed me, and pulled me aside, nearly yanking me off my feet, my eyes blazing red. I stomped on his foot in a fury and put some distance between us. The educated youth swarmed in to pull us apart, all trying to mediate. Zhou Qingyu charged to the front, shielding Darien Jiyu. "Freya Su, you promised to marry him. How can you go back on your word now? What about Darien? What is he supposed to do?" At the educated youth outpost, I never hid my relationship with Darien Gu. When he proposed, everyone blessed us, and I was living in a dream. I even asked my parents for a lot of things, determined to be with Darien Gu even if it meant a huge fight with them. My father disowned me on the spot, and my mother was so upset she took early retirement. With her position being transferred to the Zhou family's eldest son, how dare you question me, Zhou Yuqing? You and Darian Jiyu have been carrying on behind my back. What about me, your fiancé? Her words landed like a thunderclap out of a clear sky. Darian Jiyu was the first to snap. Freya Su, don't you dare spout such nonsense. I immediately seized Zhou Yuqing by the wrist. This jade bracelet was given to me by my mother, meant to be a token of affection for Darian Jiyu, yet now it's on your wrist. How do you explain that? Zhou Qingyu quickly withdrew her hand. A flicker of panic crossing her expression, her reaction only made the situation seem more suspicious, as if she were trying too hard to hide something. An eerie silence fell over everyone, their eyes darting back and forth between the two of them. I couldn't help but let out a scornful laugh. A number of aunties, eager for some drama, were gathered around, munching on sunflower seeds and offering their speculations. Freya, dear, what's there to explain? It's obvious the two of them are an item. Incidents like this weren't uncommon in the village, everyone just treated them as a bit of a joke. If that had happened to an educated youth, it would have been a huge deal. In my past life, I discovered this too, but Darian Jiyu brushed me off with a few casual words. It was only after I followed him to the city that I found out this bracelet was originally a thank you gift from the factory director's wife to my mother. And it could even be exchanged for a job position. Zhou Qingyu used it to get into the personnel department, then climbed the ladder step by step to become the factory director's secretary, living a life of glory and prestige. The thought of it made my blood boil. I snatched the bracelet back by force. Even if I don't call in that favor, I won't let Zhou Qingyu get off easy. Freya Su, I'm the one who borrowed money from Zhou Jiqing in the first place, so this is to settle the debt. Don't overthink it, Darian Jiyu. It seems I'm not that important to you after all. In that case, there's no need for this marriage. I don't want to argue with him anymore. There's something more important at hand. Wang Jiqing, who was with us, adjusted his glasses. His family background was that his father was a director at a leather shoe factory. Of all the things you could use to settle a debt, why did it have to be a token of love? That remark left Darian Jiyu speechless. The female educated youths all expressed their disdain. Zhou Qingyu, who had once been quite popular, was now universally scorned and couldn't even hold her head up. She forced herself to stay calm and said, "That's right, Darian owed me money and gave this to me to settle the debt. I had no idea it was a token of your affection." Hearing that, I laughed even louder. Darian Gu, flushed with anger and shame, glared at me with undisguised hostility. Freya Su, stop this nonsense. Come home with me first. What isn't yours will never be yours. Well said, you two should remember those words as well. I shot a cold glance at Darian Jiyu and Zhou Qingyu. They were the real thieves who stole my life. As the villagers began to gather and watch, I turned and hurried off toward the educated youth outpost. It's the slack farming season now. We only need half a day's work to finish up, and then everyone can rest. I got lucky and caught Zhao Wen just as he was about to leave. Good thing I didn't keep waiting around with Darian Gu, or I really would have missed him. Are you heading back to the city? Zhao Wen was a bit surprised. He already knew about my upcoming marriage to Darian Gu. I didn't offer much explanation, just urged Zhao Wen to tell me quickly. After a moment of silence, he finally admitted that the list for returning to the city had indeed been issued long ago, but it was all being held by the production team leader. Even Zhao Wen had only learned about it through his family connections and was planning to go ask the team leader about it. After all, nothing's been finalized yet, so it's best not to make a big fuss. With Zhao Wen by his side, the squad leader, buckling under the pressure, quickly produced the list. When the list was announced that day, my name wasn't on it, only Zhou Qingyu's was. I couldn't believe it and went to question the squad leader again. His attitude towards me wasn't as warm as before. Instead, he was rather cold and dismissive. This is all that came down from the higher-ups. I let out a cold laugh, tore the list off the bulletin board, and took a horse-drawn cart to the commune. Fortunately, the clerk in charge of return to city registration was still on duty. I quickly asked him to check the return list for Dasui village and presented my letter of introduction as an educated youth. He replied with forced patience, the list was finalized long ago. Your name was indeed on it, but your spouse personally came to the commune office and said you didn't want to go back, so we crossed it off. I don't have a spouse at all. The villagers who came with him can all vouch for it. That's why we believed him. They showed me the document, which bore Darian Jiu's signature and fingerprint, stating that I was voluntarily giving up my spot on the return to city list due to illness and being unable to come in person. I took it and looked it over several times, a surge of anger rising in my chest. How dare he give up on my behalf? I want to report the Dasui village production team leader for malpractice and deliberately framing the educated youth. I simply don't believe the team leader wasn't involved in this. Without him, Darien GU would never have had a chance to find out about the return to city list. But I can't understand why he would help Darien GU. The staff member was in a difficult position because I couldn't produce any evidence. I was suddenly overwhelmed by a sense of helplessness. Just getting from here to Daswi village would take until evening, let alone bringing someone back here. That was utterly impossible. A deep, resonant voice suddenly came from behind. Young comrade, who do you wish to report? I am the party secretary. You can tell me of any grievances you have. A group of people entered from outside. The man at the front had a kindly face, and I recognized him instantly as Secretary Wu. In my past life, when I was struggling alone in the countryside raising my child, it was he who helped me get by, time and again, by giving me some rice and grain. Later, he was framed by someone with ill intentions on charges of misconduct and was subsequently dismissed from his post and investigated. At that time, I was completely overwhelmed and preoccupied with securing the initial funding for Darien GU. So I never paid attention to the final outcome. When I saw him again, I was overwhelmed with a deep sense of guilt. I never imagined that, even in this new life, he would still be my benefactor. Secretary Chen, who was accompanying Secretary Wu, also spoke kindly. Don't be afraid, our secretary is well known for serving the people. I've long heard of Secretary Wu's reputation. There is indeed a matter where I could use your help. The opportunity is right in front of me. It would be a waste not to take it, but this time I will certainly repay him properly, sparing no effort. It was pitch black by the time we returned to Daswi village. Secretary Wu was easygoing. He rode back with me in the ox cart, and we didn't attract much attention. I jumped off the cart and hurried towards the Hua family's place, telling the others to hang back. That way, I could see everything that was going on. Every household had finished dinner and was outside relaxing in the cool evening air. When they saw me, they greeted me as if they were spectators at a show, and some even started whispering among themselves. I didn't care about any of that. I just kicked the Hua family's front door open. As luck would have it, Zhou Qingyu was inside having a meal. The Hua couple treated her far better than they ever did me. Her bowl was piled high with meat. But when I came here, I had to work before I could eat. Or else I'd be labeled a lazy freeloader. Darien GU, who had already been humiliated by me multiple times, immediately put down his bowl and chopsticks upon seeing me. So you finally decided to come back, Freya Su. Don't blame me for not giving you chances. You're the one who made a scene and turned the whole village into my laughingstock. Freya, I'm sorry. Here. Why don't you have this instead? Zhou Qingyu's eyes darted around, and she immediately offered up the bowl of meat in her hands. Mother Hua sneered contemptuously, rising to her feet with a furious roar. If Su Jiqing doesn't want to be with Darien, she should have said so sooner. This is just taking the benefits and shirking the responsibility. Darien GU, who gave you permission to impersonate my husband at the commune, ignoring both of them. I grabbed a nearby stick and strode toward Darien GU. His expression froze, and he sat up straight. What? You went to the commune? If I hadn't gone, I'd never have found out. Who do you think you are? You not going back to the city means we're getting married, doesn't it? Ow, why are you hitting me? I struck with full force, holding nothing back. Darien GU couldn't dodge it and was sent scrambling around the courtyard. The onlookers outside rushed over to see the commotion. And a crowd soon gathered at the small courtyard's entrance. Mrs. Hua hurried forward to intervene, and I gave her a taste of it too. It could only be seen as an accidental hit in a moment of rage. At least, that's how it would look to outsiders. Mr. Hua, acting completely out of character, picked up a broom and started hitting him even harder than I had. Yet normally, he's the one who dotes on Darien GU the most. Everyone was stunned. Mrs. Hua, forgetting all about the grudge from when I hit her moments before, immediately rushed over to pull Mr. Hua away. Zhou Yi had just been watching, but when he tried to step in and help, he got hit a few times too, his hands turning red. Hua Jingshan had dodged quickly at first, but the moment he saw Zhou Qingyu get hurt, his heart immediately ached for her. Dad, what are you doing? You've hurt Qingyu. It's alright. She had always maintained a flawless image in front of the Hua family, so she naturally wouldn't lose her temper over such a trivial matter. Even though her expression was on the verge of cracking, Zhou Qingyu endured the pain and waved her hand dismissively. At his shout, old Mr. Hua finally stopped what he was doing. He propped a hand on his waist, turned to me with an awkward laugh, and said, Freya, your uncle here is teaching this kid a lesson for you. Don't you go and do anything rash now. I put down the stick and chose not to engage with that line of conversation. Now I finally see the reason behind his unusual behavior today. Mr. Hua's father is trying to force me into forgiving Darien GU with this tactic. After all, he's already been beaten by his own father. I can't very well push my luck, but that only would have been useful to my past self. Now, it just fuels my resentment, Uncle Hua. I can't agree with you on this. It's a fact that he went to the commune pretending to be my lover and demanded they remove my name from the list for returning to the city, isn't it, Freya? I know how much you care for this lad, but don't go too far, make your point and be done with it. After all, you two are going to be married. Those narrow eyes turned toward me with a threatening glint, an expression I had never seen on him before. In my past life, I was always the dutiful and obedient one. While Father Hua stayed hidden in the background like a ghost, now he's finally showing his true colors. The villagers all nodded as if it made perfect sense. No one believed I genuinely didn't want to marry Darien Jiu, thinking I was just throwing a childish tantrum. Perfect. I deliberately asked Secretary Wu to come in a bit later, precisely so they could see this kind of scene. Families close to the Hua family all urged me not to take it too much to heart, while others looked at me with utter disdain. Freya, you haven't eaten yet, have you? Come in and have something. Everyone, let's all go back and eat. Mrs. Hua, now realizing Mr. Hua's intention, joined in the clamor to play along. That's pretty much how most folks in the countryside are. There are moments of warmth when we sit together, but once it's over, we all go our separate ways. After all, it's a family matter. No one really steps in. Thank goodness I ran into Secretary Wu again today. Otherwise, I really can't imagine how things would have turned out. The next second, Secretary Wu pushed through the crowd with Secretary Chen in tow, his expression grim. Who dares to bully ordinary people here? The villagers of Da Sui village rarely went to the commune and had no idea who Secretary Wu was. They were about to leave, but they stopped in their tracks when they saw the corners of the room were filled. It was at that moment the brigade leader arrived. Beads of cold sweat dotted his forehead as he stepped forward with flattery. Secretary Wu, why didn't you give us a heads up? We could have prepared a proper reception, so you could have time to prepare and cover up your mistakes. If I hadn't come to see for myself, I wouldn't have believed that our own people were throwing their weight around like this. The brigade leader was also a member of the commune. He involuntarily clenched his fists, his eyes fixed on me with an intense stare. You must have heard about the commotion here on your way over. I glared right back without a hint of fear, sensing the squad leader's deference. The others quickly realized this person was someone important and immediately shifted their accusatory stance away from me. Mr. Hua's father was the first to step forward and extend a friendly gesture. So it's Secretary Wu from the commune. I've long heard you're a modern-day Judge Bao, and seeing you today, the reputation is clearly well-deserved. Secretary Chen spoke up. Comrade, please don't hand out empty flattery. Our Secretary Wu won't show favoritism to anyone because of it. He held his head high and proceeded to take out a pen and paper to start taking notes. Watching from the sidelines, I couldn't help but feel relieved once again that I had brought these two along. Both Darien Gu and Zhou Qingyu were taken aback. They occasionally visited the county town, so of course they knew who he was. They had long heard of Secretary Wu's swift and decisive methods, especially when it came to dealing with illicit affairs. I shot a challenging look at Darien Gu, letting him know he couldn't possibly stir up any more trouble. He's just relying on his extensive connections in Da Sui village. I can call in backup too. Seeing the moment was right, I quickly stepped forward and laid out the whole story for everyone to hear. Vigorously waving that large sheet of paper with the list of names for returning to the city, Secretary Wu's face grew darker with every word, and not a soul around dared to breathe too loudly. The educated youths had also arrived, watching me from a distance within the crowd. After all this time in the countryside, I'm the first one who's dared to stand up to the brigade leader. In the village, if you cross the brigade leader, your life becomes a living hell. Zhao Wen looked at me with admiration. The brigade leader used to boss the educated youth around and throw his weight around. And they couldn't fight back. To resist is to show dissatisfaction with the organization's arrangements, and then everyone has no choice but to keep their heads down and toe the line. Qin Jingshu, you tell us, what on earth is going on here? The squadron leader hemmed and hawed, his eyes darting around, unable to utter a single word for a long time. A collective sense of dread settled over the group. As my gaze swept over their panicked faces, I felt a surge of grim satisfaction. Seeing him at a loss for words, Secretary Wu didn't press further. Instead, he turned his focus squarely on Darien Jiu. Why did you impersonate Freya Su's spouse to cancel her permit to return to the city? The commanding presence of a lifelong leader radiated from Secretary Wu, creating an overwhelming pressure. Darien Jiu immediately abandoned any thought of causing trouble. His voice was as faint as a mosquito's. Freya and I are getting married soon, as her husband. I have every right to do this, don't I? As soon as he said that, everyone immediately agreed, with some even citing our past affection as proof. I simply couldn't hold back any longer and kicked him, sending him stumbling into Zhou Qingyu. Nonsense. I told you ages ago I'm not getting married. Are you deaf? Didn't you hear me? Freya, I know you think I'm poor, but I gave you my word, you can't just go back on it. Darien Jiu clenched his jaw and refused to budge. I took a deep breath and didn't press the matter further. Secretary Wu furrowed his brow and motioned for me to speak. They'd been carrying on together for ages. Of course I'm not going through with the wedding. Did you really think I'd keep playing the fool? The rumors about this had been swirling for a while, and my bringing it up now only confirmed the truth. Mrs. Hu rushed to her son's defense. Don't you dare spread such slander. They're just good friends, that's all. Even though the Hu family seemed quite fond of Zhou Qingyu, actually letting her marry into the family was out of the question. She kept bringing it up in front of me, asking my family to pull some strings to get Darien Jiu a job in the city, and she promised she'd make it worth my while. In my past life, I was completely taken in by this kind of talk, willingly throwing myself headfirst into that bottomless pit. Freya, please don't get the wrong idea. There's really nothing going on between Darien and me, Zhou Qingyu said with tears in her eyes. Her act won her a lot of support from the local village lads, and some even joined in, calling me shameless. All this commotion died down just before Secretary Wu looked over. I simply brought up the matter of the previous love token again, and the aunties all chimed in with their opinions, even with her sharp tongue. Mrs. Hu couldn't salvage the situation. Mr. Hu remained silent the whole time. Carefully observing Secretary Wu's expression, the brigade leader was pacing around like a cat on a hot tin roof, frantic with worry. First, he told all the villagers to leave, then he shut the courtyard gate. Secretary Wu, you see, intentionally removing someone's name from the list is a serious matter. You'll come with us to the commune headquarters for now, and we'll decide on the consequences there. As for this marriage of yours, without the official seal, it holds no weight. Secretary Wu's word was final, and no one dared to object. It was actually Mr. Hu who stepped forward, asking me to plead with Secretary Wu. He said he'd overlook my breaking off the engagement as long as they didn't take Darien Jiu away. I ignored his threat. I held the upper hand in this situation. Nothing they did would make a difference. The matter was settled. Both Darien Jiu and Zhou Qingyu would have to go. Zhou Qingyu put up the fiercest resistance. I haven't done anything wrong. Why do I have to go too? Secretary Chen replied calmly. You are suspected of engaging in improper sexual relations. You must come with us. At this critical moment in the wave of returning to the cities, even a single stain could alter the course of one's life. Zhou Qingyu had put in considerable effort to return to the city and struggled the hardest. Freya Su, this is all your fault. No wonder Darien doesn't like you. Even a ghost wouldn't want someone like you. Perfect. I never wanted the approval of a worthless person in the first place. That's exactly what I was thinking. To my shock, Zhou Qingyu seized the moment while Secretary Chen was distracted, snatched up a kitchen knife from the floor, and charged at me, her eyes blazing red. If I can't go back, then you're not going back either. I was frozen in place by sheer terror. The other party, in a desperate, nothing left to lose move, was actually going to kill me. Attempted murder means jail time. A trip to the commune office would just mean a bit of criticism and a lecture at worst. Darien Jiu also realized the gravity of the situation and hurried forward to intervene. Qingyu, don't do this. You'll ruin the rest of your life. Get away from me. My life was ruined a long time ago. Zhou Qingyu charged forward recklessly. As Darien Jiu reached out to grab the kitchen knife, his palm was impaled. A heart-wrenching scream tore through the air, and I froze. Mrs. Hu reacted swiftly, shoving Zhou Qingyu aside before bursting into loud, dramatic sobs. My poor son, it's these two wicked women who have done this to you. Secretary Wu, you must see that justice is served for us. Mr. Hu, his face deathly pale, leaned against the doorframe before his legs gave way and he slid to the floor. I know full well how much he values Darien Jiu. This must have truly shaken him. The next second, she stood up and slapped Zhou Qingyu hard across the face. You bitch. Secretary Wu couldn't let the farce escalate any further, so he ordered the brigade leader to break them up and took everyone back to the commune. As one of the parties involved, I also had to go and give a statement. On the way, Zhou Qingyu still wanted to do something to me, so Secretary Chen put her in a separate vehicle to avoid collateral damage. The commune took the matter very seriously and gave me positive recognition and praise. Punishment for the two of them was decided in less than a day. They were both publicly criticized in the major newspaper. Additionally, Darien Jiu was fined 100 yuan and given 10 days of detention, while Zhou Qingyu, due to the severity of her misconduct, was fined 300 yuan and sentenced to 15 days of detention for re-education. My name has been put back on the list, and now I'm just waiting for the date of my return to the city. The brigade leader has been keeping a low profile lately and is treating the educated youth much better. After what happened, the villagers of Da Sui village no longer dare to mistreat the educated youth as they used to. On the contrary, as the date to return to the city drew nearer, many villagers began inviting the educated youth to their homes for meals. Hoping to build closer connections, it would be good to have a contact in the city for the future. Even though the educated youth weren't particularly keen on going, they were still in Da Sui village and couldn't afford to cause offense. I was taken aback when I received the village chief's invitation. By all logic, he should have despised me. Zhao Wen was also invited and went with me. The Hua couple were busy pulling strings everywhere to get their son out, so they never actually came to bother me. The banquet was filled with familiar villagers, which put me at ease. The village chief's son and daughter-in-law offered a toast to apologize, and I returned the gesture to show there were no hard feelings. They held me back and gave me a long spiel, basically asking me to look out for them once we got back to the city. I kept a straight face, but inwardly, I was scoffing. When we worked in the fields, those two were always slacking off, and they'd dump all the extra work on me. It was all because Darian Jiu was over there playing the good guy. Most of the educated youth were thoroughly drunk, and it was the villagers who took responsibility for getting them home. After waiting so long without any sign of mischief, I began to feel puzzled. I started feeling a bit dizzy and instinctively headed for the door. The brigade leader, who had somehow followed me, even had his daughter-in-law see me off. I naturally refused, but the other person wouldn't listen, pulling me along outside. My head grew heavier and heavier, and with every step I took, I needed to gasp for air. The scene before my eyes began to blur. I realized this wasn't the way to the educated youth settlement, and I forcefully wrenched my hand free from the person beside me. Where is this? I need to get back to the educated youth settlement. However, the production team leader's daughter-in-law didn't say a word. She just turned and ran off into the distance. I tried to chase after her but nearly fell, so I steadied myself against the wall to catch my breath. Freya Su, it's been a long time. The sound of the game echoed in my ears, sending a shiver down my spine. I turned around and was met with Darian Jiu's murderous glare, along with Zhou Qingyu's look of pure resentment. Shouldn't you be detained again? The word detained hit a nerve with Darian Jiu. He flew into a rage, grabbed me, and slammed me to the ground. Zhou Qingyu moved swiftly, grabbing my other arm from the side. Working together, they had me pinned down with no chance of breaking free. Freya Su, you don't actually think you've won, do you? Out of nowhere, Zhou Qingyu started talking about what happened before we were sent down to the countryside. Ever since the day the Zhou family first moved into the steel mill's residential compound, she couldn't stand to see me living well. My intention was to help her fit in with everyone, but she took it as me showing off and held a grudge. Even after we were sent down to the countryside, she competed with me at every turn, trying to snatch away anything I had. I was stunned to hear it. So all the suffering she caused me in my past life was simply due to her jealousy. The realization hit me, and I couldn't help but burst into laughter. So, helping someone had actually earned me an enemy. We've already slipped you an aphrodisiac. Once you're caught fooling around with someone, your spot will definitely be gone. You brought this on yourself. With a sinister tone, Darian Jiu finished speaking and, along with Zhou Qingyu, began forcing me toward a more secluded part of the village. They had been temporarily released to go home for a meal and to freshen up, thanks to connections Mr. Hua had pulled. It was only because they couldn't let go of their hatred for me that they hatched this scheme. No wonder I kept feeling something was off. I fought down the turmoil inside, biting my tongue to force myself to stay alert, scanning the area for someone to call out to for help. Otherwise, I thought I heard Zhao Wen's voice, and I shouted out before Darian Jiu could cover my mouth. Zhao Wen, help! Darian Jiu kicked me hard to shut me up, but I still screamed for help through the blood I was choking back. Zhou Qingyu beside me simply stuffed a rag into my mouth. I couldn't spit it out, and my whole body grew increasingly feverish with panic. We were almost at the most dilapidated, remote shack at the village's edge. This must be the place where they intended to utterly humiliate me. Despair washed over me. I should have known the team leader was up to no good. I never should have come this time. I never imagined that someone in custody could still slip out to pull a stunt. That was an oversight on my part. Freya Su, you'd better remember this night. Got it? Zhou Qingyu wore a smug expression. Her usually pretty face had turned downright devilish, filling me with disgust. I struggled, kicking out at them, but it was useless. I was helplessly shoved toward the cabin. Just as I was about to go inside, I heard the sound of many footsteps approaching from behind. I think I saw Su Jiqing. she went in this direction. I could also hear many familiar voices, and a spark of hope ignited in my heart. There was a small river right beside me. It wasn't deep, but I couldn't swim. Darian Gu and Zhou Qingyu were doing this for the first time, and seeing so many people, they instantly panicked. Seizing the moment they were distracted, I jumped straight into the water, relieving the intense heat in my body. In the quiet of the night, the loud splash was particularly conspicuous. Hey, I think someone fell into the water. Isn't that Darian Gu and Zhou Jiqing? Shouldn't they still be in custody? Someone asked curiously. Zhao Wen quickly dove into the water to rescue me, while a crowd of people holding torches illuminated one side of the village. Many villagers were startled awake, and the crowd of onlookers grew larger. Even though Darian Gu and Zhou Qingyu split up and ran, they couldn't escape the villagers' capture. Combined with the testimonies from the educated youth, their fate was practically sealed. Mrs. Hu tried to gloss over the whole incident, but I, having just been rescued and wrapped in a coat someone gave me, spoke up in a trembling voice. They were trying to kill me. That's not true, Darian. I just wanted to ruin your reputation, to teach you a lesson. A smug smile played on my lips as I looked triumphantly at Mr. Hua. As the mastermind behind the event, his expression remained blank. Instead, he slapped Mrs. Hua. If you can't speak properly, then don't speak at all. I've had enough of you. He's our only son. Not only did you refuse to help, but you hit me. This time, Mrs. Hua's train of thought couldn't keep up, and she immediately started arguing with Mr. Hua. Amidst the chaotic crowd, their squabble was insignificant. Zhao Wen had already gone to fetch the team leader, and someone brought me hot water to ward off the chill. A faint smile touched my lips as I turned my gaze toward the neatly dressed team leader approaching. The evidence is irrefutable. There's no way to spin this. Darian Gu and the captain exchanged a glance, then silently lowered their heads. Honestly, staying silent right now is the best move. The more you say, the more trouble you invite. I won't let them escape the punishment they deserve. I looked expressionlessly at this person, cherished by Darian Gu and his children. She had a delicate, pretty appearance, and there was a fragile beauty in her every smile and frown. In my presence, I said, "Confess honestly, who among you is the mastermind?" Neither of them spoke, refusing to answer. Unfazed, I walked over and crouched down beside Zhou Qingyu. There's a world of difference between being the mastermind and an accomplice, and if I recall, you're supposed to take over the family business, right? My words jolted Zhou Qingyu back to reality. Her family favors sons over daughters. They'd never hand the position to her. For someone like Darian Gu, Zhou Qingyu would be far less able to endure a prison sentence. The only reason I came with Darian Gu was to see just how badly I'd end up, procuring the knockout drugs and planning the entire operation. That's not something she could have pulled off alone. I trust she won't let me down. Just as the squad leader was about to try and gloss things over, Zhou Qingyu came clean with the whole story. Darian Gu was absolutely furious and got into a shouting match with her. It's shocking that a couple who were always so loving could argue so viciously. Money really does change people. With everyone watching, the squad leader couldn't show favoritism to anyone anymore. In fact, he might be in trouble himself. By the time Secretary Wu arrived the next day, the matter had already been settled. They were just waiting for the official punishment from higher-ups. He first apologized to me, then promised they would never get away so easily again. He was also removed from his position as captain. His various actions had violated the organization's discipline. A new captain will be temporarily assigned to manage Dasui village starting tomorrow. It said that Zhou Qingyu tried hard to present evidence proving her innocence, but was counter-accused by Darian Gu and Mother Hua, causing a huge uproar. She wanted to see me one last time, but I refused, because at this moment, I'm on the train back to the city, leaving this place that has brought me so much heartache. Unlike my past life, I can now start a brand new chapter. Mom and Dad have already prepared a meal at home, waiting for my return. Now that I'm away from that troublesome place, even the air feels fresher. Secretary Wu was transferred to the provincial level after receiving unanimous praise for his perfect resolution of the villagers' dispute. I was happy for him and even wrote a long letter of thanks. At the steel mill, I took over my mother's position, embarking on a new chapter of my journey. All the past events are now like mist and smoke.